I'm Shane Bishop, Senior Pastor of Christ Church in Fairview Heights, Illinois. Sylvester Weatherall is a trophy of the grace of God. He has a story unlike any story that you will ever hear from an Episcopal candidate. He also has two gifts that I think are most important to the episcopacy. In 2016, given the state of the United Methodist Church, one, he brings people together. He can bring people of diverse points of view together. He can get people to the table. It's a gift that he has. And number two, he can cast vision for how we would be better off to walk together than to walk separately. Sylvester Weatherall is somebody I would be honored to have as my bishop, and I would never endorse anyone that did not pass that test. Listen to his story. I pray your heart would be strangely warmed.
Wasn't born a Methodist, but it was destined for me to be a Methodist. I was born in St. Louis in 1956 at a time when African Americans were only able to be in two hospitals, City Number 1, City Number 2. Unfortunately, my mother could not make it to City Number 1 or City Number 2, so she had to go to Bourne's Hospital, a Methodist-related hospital. So I was born there. I can remember when my father worked two jobs. He worked at a cross tie factory, and he also worked on the weekends cutting trees down for the local paper mill. He had an accident when I was about 9 or 10 years old. And at that point, another person came into my life. His name was Charles Tiggs. And at the time, did not know he was a Methodist. I just knew him as my principal at the grade school. He became my surrogate father when my father went down, and he taught me a lot of things about how to grow up to be a teenager. I wasn't born a Methodist, but thanks to Charles Tigg, I began to learn what United Methodism is all about. My call to ministry came as I worked as a young man for Southern Railroad, and I was making quite a handsome living as a switchman. But there was something missing in my life, something more. Something was calling me, something was pulling me to something bigger, something I couldn't even explain what it was. And I decided that my life was missing an explanation of who God is and what religion meant in my life. So I enrolled at McKendree College simply to learn as much as I can about religion. I didn't go there to be a preacher. I didn't go there to be a teacher. I went there because I had a healthy curiosity of who God was and what this whole religion thing meant for me. I chose religion. I chose McKendree because it was a Methodist-related college. I didn't know much about Methodism, but I knew it was religiously affiliated. While I was there, I met Reverend John Grove. John Grove pastored First United Methodist Church in Lebanon, Illinois, just off of the McKendree campus. And I was working at the local drugstore there. And he came in one day and invited me to his church. And I said, "Which church? You mean that church down the street where all of my professors go, where all of the white people go?" He said, "Yes, that church. I'm the pastor, and I'd like for you to come." I said, "Okay." Never intended to go, not one day of my life. But he didn't stop coming. He would come in every so often, and every single time he would invite me to his church. One time he came in and he said he was going to have open heart surgery, and he needed some people to cover the pulpit. He needed a student from McKendree. He was going to be gone 6 weeks. He had 5 weeks covered, and it would be nice if a student from McKendree would come and just tell about their experience at the college. Everything in my mind and my heart and my soul was going to say no, but it came out yes. And so we made the appointment, and I went and I preached at First Methodist in Lebanon. The only problem was I had never heard any sermon preached in my life except for a Baptist sermon. My upbringing, preachers preached an hour to 2 hours, depending on how the Spirit gave them utterance. And so I set out to do the same. And I could hear the church bell ringing in the background. Nobody told me that that meant church was over. I thought it was affirmation, so I kept on preaching. But the way the congregation made me feel afterwards is the reason that I'm a Methodist today. They came to me and they said, we see that you have a lot of talent. We see that God has a call on your life. You need some polishing here or there, but we see God moving in you. That congregation became to me my new family. They literally taught me the difference between a salad fork and a dinner fork. They literally taught me the difference between Beethoven and Chopin. And John Grove became the closest thing to me as a father on this side of heaven. He taught me everything I know and everything I want to be as a minister. I would like to be like John Grove. United Methodist Church has opened so many doors for me. It has opened doors from my education at McKendree to where I am in my life now. Almost 30 years as a pastor, the church has sent me, and I've been on some of the committees, and I've been to General Conference 5 times. I've seen so many things that only I can experience in the church. Why do I want to be bishop? God has been so good to me through the United Methodist Church. And at age 60, I think it's time that I give back to the church. And the only way I can do that is give myself a service and be a testimony of the grace of God that has been shown to me in the United Methodist Church. Thank you, brothers and sisters.